What do all of these classroom incidents have in common?
You've been annoying all day long.
So that's. You just be quiet. You just be quiet.
Oh! Because you just said you're gonna give such much crap because you can. Now you can't do it. Oh!
I just paired my headphones listening to this audio thing. So, just gonna...
If you want somebody to respect you, you gotta respect them. If it's and when I'm talking, you don't interrupt me. And don't sit here and say you did not interrupt me. That you did not disrespect me. Everybody in this classroom saw how you was being disrespectful.
In all of the videos, the teachers are committing the first big no-no of classroom management. And if you can avoid this no-no, you will have far fewer problems in your classes. And that no-no is calling the behavior out publicly. Now, I can sympathize with at least some of these teachers. When a student is being downright disrespectful, it seems only natural that we want to give them a telling off. Have I ever lost my cool with my students?
Of course!
But what happens in all three of these videos? The student argues back. Let's remember that children, especially teenagers, are very conscious about how they look in front of their friends and where they stand in the social hierarchy. If you tell a pupil off in front of their friends, they are potentially going to look humiliated, and they are going to want to avoid looking humiliated at all costs. So what are they going to do? They're going to put up a fight, argue with you, and potentially escalate their bad behavior. I remember once I was teaching a student who was being pretty disrespectful, and I called him out in front of his peers. For the rest of the lesson, every time I tried to open my mouth, he heckled me.
Who the hell cares?
There's another reason why we should avoid calling out behavior publicly. It wastes a huge amount of time. Look how long this teacher and pupil argue over whether she had her phone out or not. And what are the other students in the class doing while these standoffs are happening? Absolutely nothing. So they're sat there not learning anything. They themselves are likely to start misbehaving, and before you know it, you've got 10 different fires in the room to put out. The second no-no, which some of the teachers we saw earlier were guilty of, is making the comments about the child and not the behavior.
We're not going to hire you because you can't listen to anybody.
If you make your comments about the child and not the behavior, that child will think you personally dislike them, and they will never be motivated to do anything for you again. I think the worst example of this is using what I call the "you're so" adjective. Saying things like, "you're so rude, you're so naughty." I once had a child who didn't like the way I dealt with him when he was misbehaving in my class, and he thought I personally disliked him. From that point onwards, he did something to undermine me in almost every lesson, and I pretty much had to give up any hope of changing that child. There's also the risk that the child will actually internalize this and start believing that there's something wrong with them. If a child thinks he's bad, he'll still need your attention, but he knows he's not going to be able to get your attention in a positive way, so he's going to carry on misbehaving because he knows that's how he gets your attention. Instead of saying, "you won't be hired," the teacher should have said something like this. They would have been keeping their comments strictly about the behavior without singling out any person, and they're giving a clear correction that the students could make. But this is just a flavour of what I do in my lessons to deal with bad behaviour, and pretty beginner level. I'm now going to give you a choice of 2 videos to watch, where I go into more detail about the hacks I use to deal with behaviour issues in a faster and smoother way that doesn't draw attention to the bad behaviour. So firstly, I think to stop bad behaviour from becoming common in the first place, it's important that we're developing positive relationships with our students, and that we're using the technique called positive reinforcement. So you might have heard about this. It's basically drawing attention to the positive behaviour in the class rather than the negative behaviour. Although our managers will often tell us to use positive reinforcement, I found from my own experience, there's the right way to do positive reinforcement and the wrong way to do positive reinforcement. If you're interested in this, I suggest you click the video above. Okay, so we can't just rely on praising the positive kids to stamp out behavior issues. And if a kid does misbehave, it is important that we do actually deal with the behavior and administer a correction or a consequence. In the video I'm about to link you, I'm going to talk about some special hacks I have for correcting behavior and giving consequences in a way that doesn't disturb the learning or result in a standoff between you and the student. So if you're interested in that, please click the link above. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video and supporting my channel. It's still early days for my channel, so I'm really hoping to grow this and provide more of my insights from the classroom. You can help me out by pushing that like and subscribe button and hitting the notification bell. You know it makes sense.